This is episode 235 of the Gold Squadron podcast. I'm your host, Dio Morales, and today I'm joined by Marcel Manzano. Hello. Will Black Sun is Oxymoron Higwood.
It's fighting for both the light side and the dark.
And Ryan Joust My Tavson Stanazuski.
So great to have the lieutenant back on the top.
All right, so unless you've been living under a rock, or maybe today is your very first episode of Gold Squadron podcast. If that's you, welcome. But this last weekend, November 6th and 7th, we crowned our Galactic champion. So I want to start the podcast off by saying congratulations to Alex Mogensen, our Galactic champion. Ow! Yeah! One with some first order. We're going to be breaking down all the lists today that were in that top 16. There was a cut of top 32. We're also just going to be doing a little bit of review, talk about kind of like a retrospective on Galaxies just a little bit. Take a journey with us when it comes to thinking about how the progression of Galaxies happened this year. And the biggest thing is the fact that it even happened, right? Thank you to the community for supporting it. And it's great to have a new Galactic champion. So we'll go ahead and we'll start just by we'll jump right in. We're going for it. We're going to be pulling out lists. Alex Mogensen, our Galactic champion. Now, Ryan, you were super hyped with your podcast name today. Let's go ahead and have you break down that Galactic champion list.
All right, so unsurprisingly, in my opinion, we have a first order list with Kylo Ren. This one in a silencer. With extreme maneuvers, sensor scramblers, and ion torpedoes. We have Lieutenant Tavson, no upgrades. And then Breach, the I-5 TIE FO bomber, with advanced proton torpedoes, ion missiles, counter-nets, and seismic charges. I've been trying out Kylo with this silencer Kylo with sensor scramblers. It works really well. It's really great for just a point. Really easy to slot in. He really likes extreme maneuvers. Is very, very good on him. And I was able to catch a little bit of the final game, and I saw some of the cheeky interaction that we got. Now that there are bombs available for the first order, bombing your own Tavson for a end of activation action, normally a coordinate, is pretty good. I'll take a damage to get the very last information for my actions, whether it be something like a barrel link to lock on Breach, whether it be some extra repositional capabilities with Kylo, whatever you want to do. Or jam if someone's close enough.
Yeah, so this list is we've seen a couple people bringing iterations of this in the Galactic Championship. The most notable one that comes to my mind is Nick Tobin. Nick Tobin in the last Galaxies got pretty far in the cut with a very similar loadout. Actually, I didn't pull it up. Let me see if I can quickly go and grab it. I believe it was at Scarif. Now you talked about Tavson. For somebody who's not familiar with Tavson, what's Tavson ability? Why is he so good?
So Tavson says, bring it up so I can say it verbatim. He has 2 charges, only 1 arrow up, so 1 reoccurs per turn. After you suffer damage at any point, it's not while attacking, while defending, it's just suffer damage, you may spend 1 charge to perform an action. He's got obviously a very large suite of actions: focus, target lock, reinforce, coordinate, and jam, all white. And obviously, for people who had not seen Tavson in action prior to the FO bombers existing, it was normally if you shoot at Tavson Tabzen's going to shoot you back much harder if he has you in arc. So the normal thing to do is not shoot Tabzen. But when your own ship can help boost that action capability of Tabzen, and in a very end of phase knowledge base being end of activation from bombs, which was commonly the seismic charges by Alex Mogensen when he used it, it's very, very powerful, I think.
Agreed. Now I was able to pull up Nick Tobin's list from the last qualifier from Scarif, and he had this same ships. We had Breach, Tavson, Kylo Ren, the same exact Kylo, but instead of having those seismic charges out there, who was carrying fanatical advanced proton torpedoes, electro chaff, and counter nets. So that switch there made a big difference, especially with the seismic charges, giving you a lot of great spread for that damage, because now you have a little compared to how I don't think you want to ionize your Tavson, right? Like that seems like a bad idea. But seismic charges gives you a bigger range for getting that coordinate done, and we got to see it to good effect. It was pretty awesome. And one of the
obviously
things
on top of providing that action I talked about, it also just clears the way for Tavson. I don't know how I only saw the final game that Alex played, but it looks like he commonly had Breach in front of Tavson, so Breach in a way was getting the extra benefits from Tavson, and then on top of that, kind of clearing the way in an aspect, depending on what he used the seismic on, because he could have options depending on how close other obstacles are.
I think I heard that in the interview at the end, that he said it's also there if he lands on on a rock, on an asteroid instead of a debris. He's like, he can land on an asteroid and still shoot. So it's a way to ignore rocks, and then not only can he shoot, if he lands on an asteroid, takes a damage from rolling on an asteroid, and then takes another damage from the debris. Now he's got a target. He's on an asteroid. He can shoot, and he's got a target lock focus. Like he can really shoot. So yeah, it's a pretty wild change addition. I think you guys talked to him, but didn't he mention that was like the last minute change between what him and Tobin were talking about that? Mm-hmm. That was like a last minute change.
Yeah. So one of the things we're gonna start doing here at Gold Squadron is I know that you guys say you like articles, so I wrote it's very short, very simple, but just kind of going a little bit through what the lists were here and just talking about that choices. Yeah. So he was in the post game interview. Alex mentioned that he originally had proximity mines on Breach. And then the shift was late. The shift was late. So if you like articles like that, they're on the website, and I'm going to be updating those once in a while. I have some other things from Galaxies that I want to talk about, so you can check them out on goldsquadronpodcast.com. Man, Breach, the value that you get there is amazing, and I think the goal, and people were talking about it on our Discord today, is you want to essentially trade Breach and most of Tavson. You want to make sure that you have an end game for Kylo Ren. Like that, he's the monster. Would you agree with that, Will?
Oh yeah, the whole list is designed to prevent Kylo from getting lost early. Those sensor scramblers, they're just the control as well through the ion torpedoes and the ion missiles. In addition to Tavson and Breach just being kind of like jousters, for lack of a better word. They're just trying to come in and draw as much attention as possible.
Yeah, it was really cool to see, and one of the things that I talked about in the post game interview is this is something that has been trickling around. You've seen like Tobin playing it. Ryan, you mentioned that you've been messing around with it as well. I think for a while this is going to be an archetype that we see a lot. And I want to talk about the value of extreme maneuvers, because we saw that card do some work in that last game. You want to talk about a little bit about that, Will?
Yeah, I mean the fact that, I mean, we've seen the barrel roll Daredevil back in from Major Von Reg and some of the other FO interceptors be very successful, but Kylo can do it with the Force and with a much chunkier chassis. In addition to being able to do that linked boost, as you said before, with Tavson coordinating either mid-combat or at the start of combat, essentially, the end of activation when bombs go off, can really fine-tune where Kylo's putting his arc each round.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. So again, one more congratulations to Alex Mogensen. He's actually being recorded right now in an interview with the Minox Squadron podcast. So make sure to check them out tomorrow, and he'll get to talk a little bit about Galaxies. Hey, listen, they're just doing cross promotion for us that we didn't have to pay for. I ain't gonna complain.
They're cross promoting. You got to make sure you say their name right. It's Fly
That's what
Better.
I was thinking.
Oh, sorry, I said Minox.
He's talking way back now.
Listen, they're always Minox in my heart. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Sorry, Fly Better. Yes, for any of our new, they used to be called one thing, and now they are called Fly Better. Forgive me. Okay. I think in my conversation, why did I say? Hold on. I'm going to see. Was it? Yep. Okay. I'm going to blame the conversation I was having with Alex on that, because we kept calling him Minox back and forth. But anywho, let's head over to our runner-up, who brought what I thought was one of the most surprising lists in the cut overall. Marcel, hit me with it. It's simple yet elegant.
Yeah, you can't. There's. It's one of those lists that nobody can say anything negative about. Whether you like, no matter what type of game you like to play, you take 5 ships, which is 5 Black Squadron Sun Ace. A lot of words. Let's just say the K fighters, Initiative 3 K fighters, and throw Predator on there because they're 38 points each, and essentially they're it's like having 5 X-wings with better initiative because they're at Initiative 3 and Predator, and you give up a shield in exchange for a hull, but as a benefit to that, you get the hard 1. So that hard 1 is I mean, it makes these things very maneuverable, especially when you can do like a 2 Talon roll and then a hard 1. What it means is that they're going to keep guns on target very often. I did not see a lot of the games that he played in. I saw a little bit of the final, which I'm not going to talk about. You guys, I want to hear you guys experienced it. I walked in like I started watching when you guys were saying, "Oh no!" So I missed it. I missed it as well. But it seemed like he had not exactly pointing in the same direction to make sure that those predators, it was hard to arc dodge those predators, to make sure that somebody was going to have a predator at one point or another, which makes it doubly difficult to fly because now you're not flying in formation. You have to stagger them. You have to put one ahead. So, whatever he did, it worked. I think he went 10-0 all the way up until the final match ended up at 10-1, which is extremely impressive. Again, it's a list where you just have to set up traps. You're gonna lose some ships, and while you lose ships, you're just going to have to trade better than the other one, but trade better than your opponent. And it's one of those lists that you see. Oh, Kylo will chew that up. Oh, Dash will chew that up. Oh, XYZ will chew that up. But he he persevered. I think that he beat a Dash one, the same Dash, not the same player, but the same list that won 2 weeks ago, the one that beat me and that won the final as well.
Yeah.
And that's a tough list to put damage against, but if you catch them, that's 5 times 3. That's a whole lot of dice. That's 15 dice coming at you at range 2 or 3. 20 dice at range 1, or somewhere in between 15 to 20 dice. You can only have so many focuses and evades to get rid of that. So very cool. I like it. Very impressive. And what I like most about it, it's not easy to replicate. It's not, sometimes you get a list that wins or that does really well, and you're like, okay, then I'm just going to take this and I'm going to net list it and I'm going to put this on the table, and a good percentage of the people, or a fair percentage, not good, a fair percentage of the people will put it on the table and do well and win, go 4-2, 5-1. This is a list that if you don't have if things don't go your way, plus you don't have enough reps, you put this on the table and you're going to end up 1-5. Like it's so that's one of the things that I like most about this particular list, is that it doesn't abuse anything other than being at the right place at the right time, and that actually, and nothing, just being at the right place at the right time, just putting your ship in where it's going to have the best opportunity to win. So big fan.
Yeah, and definitely, if kind of going back to what you're saying, the list doesn't tell you the secret sauce. I know that he called it the Snaggletooth formation, essentially, and the idea is that they're all 5 of them are at different angles, and it makes it, like you said, it extends the Predator across multiple. If you're on versus the 90 and the 40, it's just crossing all these different access that you normally don't end up doing when you are also at a 90 and a 45. And my recommendation, I think, Will, was it the top 8 game where we had them?
Top 8, yeah.
Yeah, I would recommend that. Is an excellent representation of what that list can do, and the confusion alone that the Snaggletooth formation can end up causing for an opponent. It was just a great example of what that list can do. Because going back to your point, Marcel, if somebody just looks at this and tries to put it on the table, there's a high percentage chance that they just end up doing like what we're going to call a normal block, and might end up with the conclusion like, oh, this isn't that great. And not to mention, he had said that he had been playing this for quite a while. Is that right, Will?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so he had, lots of reps with some form or another of this list. So just shout out to Joel Springle. Simple, elegant, but super scary. So dust off those Kirax fighters for when you go play in person, because I think it might be the time to shine.
Question before we move on, though.
Yeah.
Can you clarify what is Snaggletooth? What is the setup? So because I think people in the chat are like, is it just spread out? People think it's all of them, but they're all wonky in one direction. I think if I recall looking at it the first time, it's like 5 across the board and in like a lot of different weird, like almost as if you randomly just put ships on the board.
Yeah, if you want a visual, for those of you who are listening to the podcast, I took screenshots and put them in our article, but I'll go ahead and pull up the screenshots for those of you who are watching right now. So here, this is the top 4 game. You can see this Kirax pointed at some wonky angle going down. This one, this was a little more tame than what the final one, what he did in the final, but they're all at slight angles, with none of them on 90 and 45. Even this one in the middle that kind of looks like it's straight, it wasn't. It was just ever so slightly curved. And in the final,
it wasn't 100% consistent from game to game. Yeah,
No.
You just brought up the final one, so it is very. Does it look like there's still a general? I mean, I'm assuming in his mind there is probably a rhyme or reason to some of his setups based on what he sees across the board.
From what I'm seeing here is you could maybe say that he might be setting up for lanes, right? If you look at this Kirax, forward, barrel roll, and now you have that lane between these rocks. Similar here, roll up, potential barrel roll back in. He might be setting up lanes, but I think for the most part, he's focused what seems to be on 5 different angles with, it looks like 3 pointed to the right slightly and 2 pointed towards the left. So
okay. I definitely have when I ran my back when we had our last Worlds event, when I ran my Seer Swarm, depending on what I was facing, I would set up still in a formation, but I practiced putting them on an off angle in a formation so that those bullseyes are harder to guarantee dodge when you're not on a 90.
Yeah, so it's super, super cool. Would suggest to try it, put it on the table. And I think there, for anybody who was really judgmental, if you were watching the final, I think it was turn 2 or 3, turn 3, he actually flew one of the ships off the board. He flew one of the ships. I'm like, we're doing the intro, and I hadn't noticed. I'm reading the chat, and you hear Will go, Dion, and the ship goes off the table. It's hard to manage, right? Because most of us are so used to seeing the game is square, so we like to line it up because it's a little easier, more predictable. And just in that opening maneuver, it just didn't quite work out, and he lost a ship really early. All right, let's keep it going though. We're gonna take a look at our top 4 list now. Marcel, go ahead and hit us with Mike Messiah with the meta classic, I would say, from Galaxies 2021.
A version of it, yeah. So he's got a separatist list. I saw several people. I think there was more separatists in the finals and in the cut than I expected to be. So he's got Jango Fett with Count Dooku, counter nets, false transponder codes, and the hull upgrade. He's got General Grievous with the treacherous, impervium, and soulless. I think that's probably been the staple of most non-Nantex separate or non-Nantex or non-double fire spray lists for the separatists for a long time. And then DBS 404 Hyena, which is just somebody that comes in and punches you in the face with advanced proton torpedoes, seismic charges, independent calculations, which is now free, and landing stretch, which is now free, for the lack of a better word. It's built in, I guess is the word. So it's 2 4s. DBS 404 is a 4, right? So it's 2 4s and a 6. Django's ability is very good. I think it's better than people think it is until they realize, like, oh, I can't spend my focuses to defend or to attack. It's such a good ability. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's there's not a lot to say about this other than it's an oldie but a goodie. It's been around for a while, and it's good. I don't know what to say. Maybe the false transponder codes is the only thing. I thought false transponder codes were probably taking a dip in popularity. Yeah, because we were thinking like, oh, there's going to be E-wings around, or people are learning to play around it. But actually, that's something that I didn't see. I didn't see any E-wings. At least I didn't see any E-wings. Doesn't mean there wasn't any. Maybe
there was some. There was some.
Mm-hmm.
They were here. Whether or not he played against any, we'd have to look into the at the receipts.
You got like that, and you've got the what are they called, the separatist thingamajiggers that shoot out and get locks from far away.
Dark One probe droids.
There you go.
Those take a payload slot though, so that would have to take away his bomb.
Love it. Well, here we go. Stanny, this is a list after your own heart, or at least a past heart from what we're hearing. Mr. Flying First Order now. What did Ben Witten, our top 4 competitor, fly here?
Another separatist list, so that's half of the top 4 was separatist. But he flew. Start with 3 separatist drones, the I3 Vultures, who are now the same cost as I1, all with struts as built-in cost, and all with Discord missiles, very valuable. To sort of match the initiative, brought a separatist bomber Hyena, so the generic I3, which we rarely ever see, and I think the only reason why we're seeing is because to match with the I3, since now those costs are the same. Plasma torpedoes, Dark One probe droids, and landing struts. And then 2 of the I5 Flak Arfok prototype droid tri-fighters, treacherous and fire control system for both. This is really surprising to me. It may be the fact that since we're in a world of the random play order that was used, or in general that it's random and not bid based anymore, that those I5s have potential to move after now. It is still a 6 ship list, so there is still the fact that being that those have treacherous and that they still have their network calculations active, they didn't take independent calculations, they're sticking within the swarm and just trying to survive as long as possible and be there for the end game potential. Since they are still I5, they still have repositional actions, even though they're linked to different options, whether it's barrel linked to evade or boost linked to calculate. I don't know how often they use their ability. They don't have what I would normally consider to be or consider to be a very popular upgrade choice in a list with tri-fighters, which is Kraken. So you can hold on to some calculates and really almost create or turn them into ADAs. Because once you have those calculates from Kraken, you could take calculate actions or others around you. They're like force points on these things. Then you got the white evade as well, plus treacherous. They're really, really hard to kill when they have the right positioning and they got all their nice friends around them. So I assume the Discord missiles and the plasma torpedoes from the Hyena bomber were there just to get them to the end game. Treacherous to make that even more difficult to kill through the swarm, I assume, screening in front of them. And maybe there was a couple potential times where they took locks instead and counted on treacherous and network calculations to keep them alive and use their ability, use fire control system to reroll, and then in the system phase, got a chance to peek at a dial and use those lower initiatives to block, and then the I5s know where they need to go.
Dial peeking. It's good. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Marcel, Nicholas God, our other top 4 competitor, bringing what for him is, I think, an expected list with a twist.
Yeah, with a twist. So he brought Palob, his yeah, it's a twist, and that twist mainly because of the increase in cost of Zam. So he's got Palob with Moldy Crow. Usually it's the Hawk is with Zam, Captain Justero, Torani Kolda with cluster missiles and R5 TK, which again is the droid that allows you to shoot yourself. No munitions failsafe this time because he's not loading his own Zam, and he's getting close to 200 points. And then the interesting one, Dalen Oberas Star Viper, which is, if I'm not mistaken, that's the Star Viper that after you complete a maneuver, you may get a stress token to rotate 90 degrees, I believe, something like that. Which is an interesting call. I mean, I-Force probably, but he's got an I3 in there as well with Palob, so you could easily drop that to an I3 and figure out, put some bombs on Palob or something like that. But, who am I to argue? He's been flying something like this for a long time, and he's good at it. So I'll take his word for it. he made it this far, so there's something to it. But again, anytime that I see ships that aren't normally on the table, I like it. So this is another one of those scenarios where I like it.
Can I give you the point cost? Dalen Oberos is only 2 more points these days than the Black Sun Assassin, the I3. So instead
Oh,
of
well, there
taking,
you
say,
go.
like a predator assassin, you can take Dalen, who probably has way better time on target.
Yeah, after
And
fully
initiative
executing
4.
maneuver, you may gain a stress token to rotate your ship. And it's not if you are stressed, so you can do that at any time. So you can do a sloop and then double stress yourself.
Yep.
I mean,
Those
basically any turn maneuvers a Talon roll. When
Yeah.
when Dalen finishes his moves, that's on his initiative step.
And I think
You just have
that
to dial it in.
that double, triple, as many stresses you want shenanigans is what people miss. Well, I think when you kind of, a lot of us will assume like, oh, of course it's when you're not stressed. No, you can do it continuously. This is in fact Tycho Kelchu reincarnate. This is the actual right here. As many stress as you want, stack them up. But yeah, really great ability, and the ability here with the kind of 90 degrees at any point slightly reminds me of why Kylo Ren with extreme maneuvers is good, because you have the ability to go away from your opponent and then put your arc in the spot where you want it. So it's really powerful ability. Of course, the difference there being that you have to have hopefully set up some mods earlier, set up a target lock or something before that.
I'll say in the future world of Road, stuff like extreme maneuvers, Daredevil, and abilities like Dalen Oberos, I think are actually be very valuable, because then you can decide later if you want to commit that hard if you have whatever player that you may have wanted in that turn.
That's right. Dalen Oberos meta incoming. Let's go. I never thought I would say it, but there we are. All right, let's keep it going. We're in the top 8 now. Baron Mangu bringing a first order list that we've been seeing quite a bit. Take it, Will.
All right, so Baron Mangu bringing the feedback ping upgrade on some TIE bombers. These are the FO bombers. They are getting those feedback pings that allow them to acquire a lock if a ship, an enemy ship specifically, moves into range 0 to 1 of a friendly device. They get to acquire a lock on it, even ignoring range restrictions. So you have sensor buoys on Lieutenant Tabson. We talked at length how good Lieutenant Tabson is. So make him even better by getting free lock actions through sensor buoys. And then because you can put the buoys out far away from your own ships, you can put them in the center of the battlefield, hide them on clouds and rocks and obstacles and things like that to keep them protected. Now when you line up to engage the enemy, you try to provoke them into getting close to these buoys so that you can trigger the feedback pings as well. So they can shoot them, or they're getting those locks to try to shoot the advanced proton torpedoes. When your whole list can shoot 5 dice range 1, your opponent needs to be very careful. And then in addition to that, these bombers have the proxy mines, which it's been the theory craft boogeyman for a long time. The pursuit thrusters boost, and then do the what was I called it? Oh, the Ankylosaurus.
The Ankylosaurus, baby.
Yeah, big O mace drop on
Boom, 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 boom,
these
boom,
guys.
boom, boom.
Very, very scary. And so yeah, between those, yeah, Ankylos, or I think they're called Ankylosauruses, but I whatever. We'll save the dinosaurs for later. The ability though to do automatic damage, to do 5 dice attacks, to get so many additional actions, just pushes this list out of its own weight class, which is good to see. I mean, I would have not have expected something like this to be successful without some sort of like long range missiles or like an ace thrown in to end game, but Mangu doing very well with it.
It's definitely got the feel of if you're being shot by an advanced proton torpedo, not only are you taking that turn, but you're probably taking a Proxmine the next turn. So be ready for like the most amount of damage possible.
Stacking them up. All right. And the additional thing is, of course, if you miss if you miss the proximity mines, they are also adding to the feedback ping reach, right? So if let's say the fight has completely left the area in which you are, you could, if you wanted to spend the charge here, is essentially set up a feedback ping loop if you want in another part of the board, where now your opponent, I guess, can try to fly through it to end the feedback pings, but that seems bad. Taking damage is bad. So a little maybe extreme, but a possibility in strategy there.
Knowing then what you know now, changing those proximity mines, at least on one or two of them, to seismic and counternet, looks so good. having those low initiative advanced proton torpedoes get coordinated for that barrel, just move, focus, and whoever's available for that advanced proton torpedo at initiative 7. I mean,
yeah, I definitely would
focus, barrel roll, lock.
Yeah, I would definitely change one of them to seismic Connor, because I will say, having played a lot of Proxmine FO bombers, super dangerous still. So
for sure,
but making one of them turn on that fully operational Tabsin, definitely.
Yeah, and also the just the counternet itself, you don't need to coordinate when you know where they're going to be anyway. So
that's pretty fantastic. So we'll concede. I mean, already the list made the top 4. We can continue to see it evolve and change. What's the right? And you might be right, Ryan. The final form might have one of these with having a seismic charge. Maybe one of them kind of with a little bit of tech out there. All right. Speaking of the top 8 game, Tim King was the opponent of Joel Springle in that top 8 game that we did stream. And this is pretty classic dash. This is the dash that we saw do really well in the last Galactic Championship event. It was the eventual winner of Scarif. It wasn't Tim, but it's the same list. Dash Rendar with expert handling, Jyn Erso, perceptive co-pilot, stealth device, and outrider. Jake Farrell is out there being able to barrel roll and give focus actions to Dash Rendar, or of course to Ahsoka. Also himself, also can do it on a boost. And then Ahsoka, coordinator extraordinaire, spent a couple force to do that, and both of them are equipped with a missile of choice. Jake with proton rockets, Ahsoka with concussion missiles. And for anybody who hasn't seen the combo yet, maybe any newer players here, that Jyn Erso crew is able to allow you to change a focus to an evade when receiving a focus basically any way that you would get it. And so Dash has the possibility of getting double evade if he wants to with the perceptive co-pilot, or if Jake is giving a focus action, you could also create a evade token out of that as well. So very defensive, but as we learned, can fall victim to multiple shots, because once those tokens start getting burned away, that's a bad day. And if the support pieces go down, Dash becomes a little bit more predictable. Of course, you have to have enough pieces left to take down Dash if you go after the support first. So still a very well-rounded and extremely dangerous list. Don't take it for granted. Don't sleep on Dash ever. Let's keep it going. All right. Will, classic. Connor Holmes, what do you bring?
All right, and an old code, but it still checks out apparently. This is Zam Wessel. That's a fire spray pilot, and Django Fett, also the fire spray. So, how this list has fallen. Oof. It used to have false transponder codes, hull upgrades, 2 sets of thermal detonators. But with the latest points increase on a lot of those upgrades, thermal detonators, Count Dooku, and Zam pilot specifically, you don't get a lot anymore if you want to take both 14-point force using crew. It's Dooku here on Zam, and then Palpatine Sidious on Django Fett, which I think is an oxymoron, but because why would you stress a ship if you want to do an easier move with it? I don't know, but regardless, it's still an eyeball conversion when you need it. And those bombs, so powerful on a ship that can fire out of its rear arc. You come in for the front arc, you hard turn away, start dropping bombs and shooting out the rear arc, all while getting extra modifications through Django's ability and then the Zam Wessel conditions. I'm trying to think. We didn't see any Zam Wessel play at all during Scarif. Of course, we were picking our matchups, so we kind of got to choose that. Do you have obviously you have the list full up. How many iterations of Zam actually ended up in Scarif?
Zam.
Or not Scarif, Alderaan.
Searching for the word Zam, there's 8.
Okay.
But there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5 of the 8. Yeah, go ahead.
5 of the 8 are crew. So only 3 pilots.
Okay. So, I mean, apparently it's not priced too high, as it's still being chosen to be brought. And we see Connor Holmes still doing very well, even with this super stripped down version of what it would have been. This thing probably would have had like a 20-point bid if you brought just these upgrades before the last points change. So I got mixed feelings about this. I'm not sure what to think. I'm glad to see that it still can perform well. Obviously, those upgrades were valuable, but I'm not sure how much more double fire spray I can stand.
I mean,
sorry, Connor.
I think we all have we all understand, and we've talked about it a lot, that the fire spray chassis itself is just good. 2 sides of your ship can shoot 3 dice without any penalty or cost. Add passive mods to that, plus some automatic damage. That's what this list is, and that's not even including their abilities. Like this, the fire spray chassis is good. And you guys, yeah, exactly. Some people are like, and the boost, and that's what I'm saying. Like, because you can shoot out the front or the back, that boost becomes a bigger weapon. Because now you can adjust that arc accordingly at a high initiative. I do think that if the fire spray was a rotating arc, that it just wouldn't be as good, because it would then start costing you actions whether you wanted to fire out the front or the back.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going on a canonical basis, we've seen it rotate. You know, this could have been designed like an SF. There was, remember in our interview a while back with Max, that there was the debate, should it be a red boost or a white boost? And Alex Davey won that debate and made it white. I mean, is it too much to say that as of now, in all of second edition, fire spray has been the best chassis in the game? Is that too much to say?
It's been the most consistent, at the least. I think that is yes, I'm with you. But if somebody's parsing words, I think consistent at minimum. That's the minimum threshold for that, for sure. All right, well, let's keep it going. We got some Republic here. Here, let's wash that taste out of your mouth, Will. Go ahead, hit this Republic list, too.
All right. Here's something I can really get behind. This is Clint Houston's Republic Squadron. He's got Obi-Wan Kenobi with the 7B configuration. It's the Aether Sprite, obviously. Then Ahsoka Tano as well in the Aether Sprite, rocking the 7B configuration. And then 3 Loyalist volunteers who I'm going to just mentally canon as not clones. These volunteers bringing the free-esque configuration, because why not? Allowing them to be very cheap and surprisingly quick blockers on a 4 health, 3 agility chassis that can sometimes fall to just 1 or 2 shots, but sometimes can, on that 3 agility, can survive a whole round of firing. So they're very, very good with that cheap boost option as well. But the real story here is those 7B Jedi. Obi-Wan's ability to just spend force and allow people to keep focus tokens. Imagine if he was just keeping a single V-Wing alive by letting it hold on to its focus token every single shot. We've talked about how good networked calculations is, because you can never actually strip the token from one of these vultures. But imagine that wasn't a vulture. Imagine there was a 2 shield, 3 agility ship instead. And Obi-Wan's just dedicating all of his force power to keeping that thing as defensive as possible. In addition to just being an I-5 Jedi with double reposition, 3 force, very, very good. I know Marcel's flown a lot of Obi-Wan in the 7B, and it can just single-handedly win games. In addition, though, Ahsoka being able to use her ability to either coordinate a friendly or give herself an action even while stressed, just for a simple force charge. On that 3-die attack with 7B, when you can spend a force to target lock and then take your action as focus, and then still have an extra force for defense, or even a boost with fine-tuned controls as well, can really get into places and punch super hard, even if it is limited by having the initiative of 3. Snips so good. We did see an ESC trigger as well on stream, which I know James was very excited about. Was able to call out one of those ESC shots on a Grievous flying away, and pinged him for the iron and just locked it down. It's very random. You do need to inflict a crit on your opponent. But that crit could set up a multitude of shots the following round, especially if you can get the Jedi to close into range 1. Very, very good.
I played him in round 3, and he called out the crit on Corrin Horn. And he caught Corrin with the ion, and Corrin died that turn because he was ion, and then he had 5 ships pointing at it. So that I mean, you need a lot of luck for that to happen, because okay, I'm gonna call it now, and then you gotta roll a crit naturally, and then crit's got to go through. But why not? Especially when the opponent has shields. On shields, that ion does a lot more than taking the shield away.
Yeah, I mean, me and James are going back and forth about it when we were watching it on stream. But because you could only ask every other round, you do need to be somewhat conservative. Mm-hmm. But honestly, these V-Wings aren't going to get a good shot every single round, right? Like, or at least a modded shot. Like, and I think if I would have a mod on my shot and the ESC available, I would just pop it regardless, unless you think like that ship's just gonna go one forward anyways, like a jouster pointing right at you.
Right. All right. Well, let's keep this party going. Next up, we have Just Vijin bringing another version of that Dash Rendar list. This time, this is a trick shot Dash Rendar, Jin Urso, Perceptive Copilot, Outrider, false transponder codes. We mentioned that we weren't sure if we were going to see too much false transponder codes. It does end up popping up here again. Ahsoka and Jake, those are the A-Wings of choice, and they do have a little bit different loadout here in this one. Both of them have vectored cannons for that back shot, and then we have starboard slash and proton rockets on Jake Farrell, and Ahsoka has instinctive aim, patience, and proton rockets. So it's trying to be a little bit more punch, a little more dangerous to go after those support pieces in this list, because they both pack 5 dice punches with proton rockets, and Ahsoka can use instinctive aim to fire that even with without needing a focus token. You just pop it off. So don't go face to face with those A-Wings. That could be a bad day. But good performance there. We've talked a lot about Dash in the last few weeks, so we're gonna move on here. Ryan, take a look at Brendan Osman Demons list.
Another surprise to me, but something, at least an archetype I wanted to go back to, which was the full 8-ship droid swarm. This is starting off with 1, 2, 3 separatist drone vultures with ion missiles, grappling struts. Then we have 3 separatist drones with Discord missiles, grappling struts. We have one of my favorites, DFS 311, the one who passes out calculates at the start of the engagement, just with grappling struts. And then we have Techno Union Bomber Hyena. So this is now I1. Didn't have room to make it I3. So DFS 311 and the Techno Union Bomber, the Hyena, are both I1. Has ion missiles, Dark One probe droids, and landing struts. Now, I omitted something out of that because I want to bring it up. It's all independent calculations. Everyone took it. They wanted the double calculate action instead of the network calculations. I've looked at this. In my opinion, this is my thing I wanted to bring up because I think there's viability in both. Independent calculations offers you, I think, a better alpha strike in that your offense will have more consistent output with independent calculations than it would network calculations. I don't have the full math on that. That is my initial thought from seeing what is successful with it and what hasn't been successful with it. I think where it can fall apart, though, is as the game progresses after the alpha strike, when you need to do certain maneuvers, where certain droids need to do some self bumps or do some red maneuvers. You don't have any droid that doesn't get an action now has no calculate to pull from, no network, no nothing. It's out there with no tokens and very easy pickings. So it's obviously up to the player to try and mitigate that as much as possible and get this alpha strike off as best as they can. Now, the actual hitting power of this list right now, the munitions aren't strong in terms of their actual damage. They're very controlling with the ion missiles, then lock things up in the second engagement with Discord missiles and bumps and the like. The Dark One probe droids take a few turns to really get them out, so you need to play a little bit of keep away for a bit before turning in. But I wanted to go back to 8 ships because I think right now, in most cases, I think the amount of bodies might be more necessary than a bunch of variety of higher powered toys like plasma torps, ion torps, just the more expensive ones that there's more cases now where you're not only losing 1 droid in the first engagement. My normal acceptance is 1.5. 2s come up a lot more than I like to be. So If I'm flying a 7-ship list and it has mostly vultures, I'm flying a 6-ship list, but maybe closer to 5 sometimes, which is really scary. So I'd rather look at 8 bodies so that I can maximize the amount of bodies I can still swarm or control the board, or just have more shots and more targets for my opponent to have to take down. And I think this represents it well just in the independent calculations manner, where again, I think that's where your munitions or alpha style strike will work.
Yeah, I want to just take a second to talk about DFS 311. While we didn't get Brendan on stream, there's going to be another player who you all know by name, who we did get to see fly this DFS 311, and I can't understate the value of being able to, like, this quarterback ability, right? You're just like, all right, you're getting a calculate. Right? It's just that ship that might be the obvious target. You give it a calculate. You have that chance of making sure that you stay alive. You have those extra mods, and in a perfect world, of course, you'd be able to keep as many of those vultures alive, like you were saying. These guys can pop. They can pop. Will, I remember when you flew vultures early on, you were one of the first ones that I saw flying them, and just seeing those, you're like, oh, well, that's dead. Next. Pop. All right.
Yeah, I will say DFS 311 is something to consider outside of a full swarm, because even as a lone vulture taking struts and 0-cost independent calculations, that's like a force charge for whoever needs it that turn.
Mm-hmm. Loving it. All right, let's keep it rolling. We got Fawn Longalan. We got another appearance of the Separatist Alliance. Marcel.
That is a lot of separatists. So Fawn is, by the way, who I had winning in my bracket. You disappoint me. Yeah, I was flying General Grievous with Treacherous Kraken and Soulless One, not Impervious Blading. And then he had 3 HMP droids, one of them being Separatist and Separatist Predator, and 2 Genosian prototypes. The Separatist Predator with Diamond Boron missiles, the RK probe droids, and the stabilizer. And then the 2 Genosian prototypes with sync laser cannons and the repulsor, the stabilizer. Basically giving them Kraken, allowing them to really use those sync laser cannons more as missiles and kind of just take away people's range 3 bonuses. And they're tough to kill. They're tough to arc dodge. They're good ships. I think we know that. So pretty cool. It's crazy how many separatists made it. If you were thinking what's gonna be at the top, you probably First Order, probably Rebel, maybe Resistance. I would think Republic, not so much, but I think nobody expected it. Empire to be up there, but I think Separatist was probably like the second to the bottom if you were thinking what's good right now, or what's in a good spot. So pretty good to see so many unexpected lists and factions just make it in.
Yeah, and the interesting part is that it wasn't just like the Separatists, we'll get to, I assume, later in our faction breakdown numbers, is the number isn't drastically higher. It's not that they're more in the cut than a bunch of other factions. They were on the higher half, but they went deep, though. That's the big part, consistently.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take the next one. Will, this is Wynand Court bringing a rebel list that doesn't have dash in it.
No dash. Well, it still has the most expensive Hera B-Wing in the entire tournament. This one equipped with fire control system, synced laser cannon, and the stabilized S-foils, of course. Hera in the B Wing has been very popular now that it's got a significant points decrease and is now the same price as A Wing Hera. The ability to, with Fire Control System 2, acquire a lock, use your own reroll, and then be able to pass that lock off to another friendly ship. That could be Jake Farrell's Proton Rocket, a 4-dice attack from Lieutenant Blunt if he gets the extra die for a ship being at range 0 to 1. Arvel as well. That ship being at 0 to 1 for Blunt. Arvel is able to intimidate, has Predator rerolls, and then if need be, you could sling Arvel that lock or a focus or something, and it makes these. Then rounding out the list is the real secret sauce here: AP5 with K2SO, giving AP5 a way to double coordinate. You take a calculate, and then I'll coordinate either you if you want it, or a separate ship altogether. Being able to coordinate stress ships. Hera loves linked actions. The A-Wings love their vectored thrusters to be able to link into boost all the time. So without that limitation, K2S or AP5 can really help out the team. Plus, if you can give the calculate to Hera, who, as you know, Hera can't actually share calculates. So she could use the reroll and calculate to shoot her shot, and then be able to pass off the target lock and maybe even a focus if she took it as an action as well. It all kind of just synergizes into, if you can get Arvel to block something with the intimidation and just shoot everything you got at it, you should be able to take that ship off the board very reliably. Between, like I said, the 4-dice Blunt, 5-dice Proton Rocket, and then Hera. We didn't catch it on stream, didn't have a great opportunity for it, but the ability to shoot your primary and then spend your lock to follow up with a synced laser cannon, this list can hunk a lot of red dice if you're not ready for it. It's very impressive. Just a couple ships, just some A-Wings and a Z95. But like, man, when you mix it all together, it becomes something greater than its parts.
Mm-hmm. All right, and here we go. The one, the only Daniel Lim, aka Isophane, was also part of our top cut at the Battle for Alderaan. So shout out to him, long time and big time GSP supporter. So made it into the top 16 with a very similar list to, is this the same? No, very similar list, but not quite the same as what was before. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separatist drones with those grappling struts, independent calculations. We also got DFS 311 with also that grappling struts, independent calculations. And what he leaned into here was the Captain Seer ability. Captain Seer ability giving you that crack shot like chance, being able to spend a calculate to cancel and evade for those friendly ships at range 0 to 3. Also carrying that soulless one for defensive rerolls. But when you have this many ships, you're going to be lining up those bullseyes with that block, and we were able to see him do that very effectively in the game that we streamed. And DFS 311 was a quarterback extraordinaire, because essentially what Daniel did was like, who has bullseye on ships, you get the extra calculate, and guaranteeing, or nearly guaranteeing, Captain Seer's ability going off for at least that ship.
So he has a game on stream, correct? It sounds like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So curious. There's no network calculations. Did he still fly in a block, or did he spread out a little more?
Oh yeah. He deployed everybody in range 2 of the board edge, but he did immediately hop 311 onto a cornered rock, and then kind of had him like 2 bank onto the rock, and then pointed out towards the inevitable joust. And then Seer kind of just like hard wand for a bit to let the separatist get up ahead in front of him. So that way Seer could come in from behind, basically play cleanup. Anything that was hurt, just tag it with a 3 dice attack.
As I'm curious now if something like this could utilize a type of what Joel Springle did, Snaggletooth style, where there's, granted, it's 8 ships, it's a lot more to manage, but you don't have to fly them next to each other. But obviously, when they're out on their own, they're not as durable as Kirax's. So I'm curious to see if anyone has tried it, or if something that might be worth trying.
Yeah, I think that the ability of grappling struts in combination with independent calculations, because grappling struts will clear your stress no matter what, as long as you started on that obstacle. You could just sit there and double calculate every single round. And that's, I think, how like the mid and late game would probably end up for this list more often than not, is that if your opponent didn't want to joust, you guys could just fly into the obstacles and start posting up on different obstacles covering different lanes and things. So then, utilizing that great synergy between the two upgrades to just get a bunch of calculates.
Yeah, I think another thing that makes this tough to try to fly outside of a traditional formation is that independent calculations gives you a stress when you take advantage of it, and the Trade Federation drones have a hard time getting rid of stress because their banks are white. So I think that makes it a little bit harder to maneuver them and have them do everything that you want them to do, because they're constantly having to do either straight or hard turns.
All right. Well, we have to see who's going to be brave enough to try it. Just see what happens. You never know. All right. Let's keep it going here. Ryan?
All right. We got JM, don't know how to pronounce, but Nutano in parentheses.
It's Cosino.
What is it?
Cosino.
Cosino. Okay. Thank you. JM Cosino.
Yeah.
Galactic Republic running Sinker. Haven't seen that in a while. Arc 170 with R4P. Very underrated astromech in my opinion in the Republic. Way better than R4. And then 3 Squad 7 veterans. They're the I3 Arc 170s with a kind of a smattering of upgrades. Well, 2 of them have Marge Stable Closure and R4P, and 1 of them has Intimidation, Veteran Tail Gunner, and R4P. So my assumption is, with the new rules for gas clouds, being that you don't have to worry about giving your opponent the extra defense, these Arc 170s, I guess I'm assuming he brought gas clouds. Did Nutano bring gas clouds to your knowledge?
I can go search it right now.
Okay. Before I go too deep into it, but in general,
I think he's in the chat.
Yes,
says,
okay.
I did.
Nutano did. So with the ability to just say, "Yeet, go, fly through it," give a ship or two some strain with that front arc, working almost people who are familiar with what Sinker used to take quite often, which was Commander Cody. The whole, if you would shoot and you had successful results and still missed, you would assign enemy a strain. Well, what if you just had a 1-point talent that could just give people strain when you would move? It's pretty good. Medium base for the intimidation as well for for the 3rd Squad 7 veteran, and likely being that one leading, or at least closer to being more the blocking one, that veteran tail gunner taking potentially more effect shooting something in the front and something that may try to get past it.
All right, let's go ahead. I think we have a couple more. Matija Mandarov. Take it, Marcel.
All right, so Matija. So he's flying Poe, Dameron, the 55-point Poe, with just Jamming Bean and the S-Foils. Jess Paba with M9G8 integrated S-Foils, and Jamming Bean, M9G8 being the astromech that allows you to target lock a friendly and that friend, or target lock anything, and that thing you target lock can reroll a dice on your command. That usually goes on Kazuda Xiono Fireball, R5 Astromech, and then to round it out, it was a Red Squadron Expert with R6D8. What is R6D8? I don't even know. Oh, there's wait. I know that's the one that bullseye you get rerolls on bullseye.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, actually, I saw this on stream play, and I played it against it myself 2 weeks ago. Very fun list and hits very hard. Can hit very hard. So everybody gets rerolls. So a lot of the time, most of them get double actions, and in this particular case, Poe is more of a support ship than coming in and punching you. So he's coming in probably behind to make sure that you get actions on all of your ships or double actions on the ships that need it.
He has that dual effect, though, kind of like Hera B-Wing, where, granted, Hera can't use her own ability on herself, but she by herself can be a strong attack, whereas Poe can use his ability on himself as well as others. It just is every other turn.
Yeah, it's a really good ability. I mean, if you think about it, it's if you look at it as as a coordination where Ahsoka on Rebels is coordinating, she has to spend 2 force, so she can't do it constantly because she's got to regen the force at some point. So it does. We know how good it is on Ahsoka. Of course, Ahsoka's doing it at Initiative 5, where Poe is doing it at Initiative matching whatever the ship you're coordinating is moving at. But coordinating or getting an extra action every other turn is just amazing. Gamut Key is another one. Gamut can only do Gamut's ability every other turn. Can only keep a token every other turn, but that's 6 points, and it's 6 points well spent. So it's one of the better abilities that I think gets underutilized. And if you pair it with something like, let's say something like Nien Nunb or something like Eloetzi or Rey, can make those ships punch really, really hard.
Now that was our last top 32 list, but I do got to give a shout out to some other.
We did 32.
I'm sorry, 16.
No, that's
that was
16.
the last top 16. Sorry about that. That was our last top 16. One of the things I do want to do is I'm planning on reaching out to people who made the cut, and we talked about starting to write articles. I want them to tell us a little bit about their list, kind of what are some of the strategies that they employed. So if you were one of those top 16 players and you want to, top cut players, top 32, talk to me. We'll see if we can get something written up. I love just hearing from players and getting some of those insights that we heard from our finalists. It was just really great just to have that discourse. But I want to give a quick shout out to Joel Anderson for bringing a Star Fortress to the top cut of the Galactic Championship qualifier. If we're calling out lists that are just a little weird, I mean, let's be honest, it's a Rey list, right? Like, Rey probably does most of the heavy lifting, but you spent the other half of your points on a Star Fortress. I think you deserve a shout out. So go ahead, Will.
All right, you want me to break it down? Let's
break it
down. All right, so as you said, Rey. This Rey with all the fixins. We got Rose, Finn, and Title. Pretty standard upgrades there. Corcella to clear multiple stress, which is just amazing. Contraband Cybernetics because it's on theme to take actions while stressed. Why not be able to limit yourself with just the turret rotation and boost? Why not take any action while you sloop? And plus those turns where you might not be able to Corcella and clear all of them. Great addition there. Shield upgrade, which I think a lot of people go back and forth about shield versus stealth on Ray. But Joel here has taken the shield upgrade. And then Shattering Shot, the new trick shot for the Force users who can spend a Force to add a eyeball result. Super good with Finn and Rose being able to use. So you can shoot, you add a blanket and eyeball, you can spend any result to acquire a lock, can put out, geez, what would that be then? 6 hits at range 1 if you're getting obstructed, hitting 5 hits consistently at range 2 and 3 obstructed. That's the true new death ray in my opinion. But then, if that offense wasn't enough, Vinny, that Star Fortress that you were talking about, has Trajectory Simulator throwing out seismics and proton bombs, so you can kind of clear the field, clear the way for this Star Fortress. You got Pad and Analyzer, Perceptive Co-Pilot, so you always have 2 focuses. Got Veteran Turret Gunner and Page, amazing combination where you can shoot once and you have the option to rotate or drop a bomb, and then you can shoot then your side arc, your 2 dice bow tie with Veteran Turret Gunner, and then you can even rotate back to the original position as well. It creates this very interesting mechanic where you're really always getting that Veteran Turret Gunner. If you can shoot once, you can line up and shoot a second time. But all of that, even before we're talking about Vinny's ability to add eyeball results, when what is it, the defender, or when the attacker is in a friendly mobile arc, I believe is how that worded. So it works for Ray, works for Vinny's side arcs as well. It even has a stealth device on Vinny, so potentially can start the game rolling 3 or 4 evades at once. So super interesting to see. Vinny's probably the most, by far the most defensive Star Fortress, with the ability to add defense dice, but a true heavy hitter as well. When you're launching a proton bomb and then shooting twice as well, it could be very dangerous if you're not stripping those focus tokens, making Vinny spend them on defense. Now he's got a mod for both shots. So very, very interesting. I would have loved to catch this on stream.
Yeah, and a huge shout out for him. So he was one of our 4 and 2s that made it into the cut, but there were only 4 of them. And to know that a Star Fortress made it in, just thinking about the MOV bleed that ship can do, even though he is the most offensive, again, 2 thumbs up. It's always cool to see these little pockets of things that are a little different.
And you talk about MOV bleed, but Joel was the highest 4 and 2 player in terms of MOV, and actually had a higher MOV than a lot of the 5
wins. Yeah.
All he had higher MOV than all the 5 wins.
I mean, turns out you don't bleed MOV if you just come in killing ships.
Yep. You're dead. All right. So that is that's we were like, that is crazy. Exactly. Pretty cool to see. All right. Now I want to
point out one quick thing with one list that I think is worth calling out. I think this should hit Will right in the heart.
Hit me.
Dread Champ, not only quick rundown: Hera A-Wing, Thread Tracers Vector Cannons, Jake Farrell, Ion Missiles Vector Cannons, Kyle Katarn, Proton Bombs Jyn Erso, No Moldy Crow, Gray Squadron Bomber Y-Wing, Dorsal, Ion Missile, Chopper, Astromech, and Seismic Charges, and then a generic Rebel Hawk with Proton Bombs and Sabine Wren crew. So you hit something with a Seismic and then trap them into 1 or 2 of the Proton Bombs. 2 Hawks. It's right up your alley, Will.
Yeah, Rebel Scout better than all of the other pilots who never made it into the cut here. As a note, better than Soontir fell.
Called out.
Better than every Imperial pilot, the Rebel Scout. Calling you out, Empire.
And Dread was a 5-1 going into the cut. So
who would have
won
guessed
some
a
games.
5-1 in this event would have 2 Hawks in the list, one of them a generic, neither with Moldy Crow.
That is cool. This is definitely worth a write up on this one, just to go how. Tell me more. All right. So I want to just take a quick gander at our faction breakdown. So for anybody who doesn't know, we have a results section for galaxies on our website. We have this this chart up there. So let's go ahead and hit that, Will.
All right. So taking a look at the faction breakdown. We see an enormous amount in comparison for the other factions of Rebels. Rebels hit a total of 56 for the tournament, beating out the other highest, which barely cracked. Well, I guess it's 37, 34, and 30. So well above average there. A lot of people investing in Heras and Dashes, and why not Hera and Dash together? But a multitude of different lists. I personally think Rebels have the highest list variety of any faction right now. Do you want 4 named pilots? Do you want a 5 ship A-wing combination swarm? Do you want to go the large turrets, Dash or Han? Like, it's very interesting, the variety of lists that the Rebels can provide, and utilizing those, like, what do I say, like power pieces so well, and after the recent points changes. But as I mentioned, though, Imperial's second highest faction in the tournament at 37, but 0 it made the cut.
Now,
what happened?
Marcel, why? Why do you think this happened? They just went home? They packed it all up?
Yeah, a lot of the things that made the Empire good and stand out and constantly make cuts is really not there at the moment. So you had the Barons. They were doing good for a while. They're not really there. They got slapped a little bit. You have strikers with Disciplined, either Gorn strikers or Nash strikers. They've gotten Disciplined went up. Generic strikers went up, so they're not around anymore. You can't really do like the Sunterfell types at the moment. Right now, they're just with Dash around with the other things that are around right now. Sunter and those type of ships aren't doing that great. I think X1 Vader is still really good, but X1 Vader struggles against Dash a little bit because it doesn't have, it only gets 2 boosts the entire game, and it doesn't have an evade. It can't evade and do its focus, so it'll struggle against the Dash matchups. Just it doesn't do as well of a job to stay at range 1 of it. So you're essentially really just left with gimmicky lists or lists that are trying to do something. I saw a few people try to make Defender Vader work with either 1 or 2 Lambda ship, which theoretically sounds right. Putting a couple Lambda ships that hit relatively hard, take up a lot of space, and take a long time to kill, allows Vader Defender to basically run amok. It would be probably similar to the winning list where you have an Upsilon and you have Breach kind of running that jousting block, and you have your ace trying to make it to the end game, hitting really hard. That's probably what it reminds me of most, with having 2 Lambda shuttles and Vader Defender. The only difference is that it doesn't have as much time on target because the Lambda shuttles just don't have really good dials, and they don't have those extra tools like the extra actions, the extra dice on attack, the ordnance, the barrel roll lock, and all those other fun toys that the first order version has. So they're just kind of in a weird spot of, I think probably what they do best right now is, Death Rain with bombs is pretty good. Bombers are probably decent because bombers, you can put ping on them, feedback ping on them. You can throw bombs that go in different directions. That might be good. Rack, I think, can potentially still be good. I think we've seen 2-ship lists like a Rack Defender or even a Double Decimator. I think something, just something beefy like that, if it gets the right matchups, could be pretty good. Can make it pretty far, but there's just nothing that stands out and nothing that scares you or nothing that scares the field. Like you might run into a Defender Vader and you're flying something that Defender Vader just chews up. But as far as like the entire field, there's nothing in the Empire right now that makes the entire field be like, oh, I'm afraid of that. There's no dash, there's no double fire spray, there's no there's nothing like that really sticks out. So I don't know, what do you guys think?
I mean, you make a lot of good points. I mean, I think they got hit the hardest in the last points update, Discipline, Barons specifically. So that's pushed them to reach for their aces, which is it because of the random turn order that we were utilizing, where you could not guarantee moving last, that not made the Imperials bad, but made it to where if you are reaching for these aces, you want somebody with maybe the Force, or someone like Kylo. Well, I guess that's the Force, but he's in a beefier chassis to try to ace in.
Yep, that makes.
I think they're. I think if we look at what were the most common Imperialists, was it kind of trip aces style or predominantly?
So, quick shout out to Pink Brain Matter. Always crunches some stats for us after it, but we can actually go ahead and pull up, the Empire. What were their most popular pilots? And we had 10 iterations of X1 Vader, 8 iterations of TIE Defender Vader. So right there's 18 of those 33 lists. Soonterfell. I mean, they're going high initiative. They're going high initiative. You would assume that these aggressors are probably all in one list, maybe 2. There's 6 listed there, and you see some Death Rain, Rexler Brath, but it seems like a majority of these lists are looking at those high initiative aces, namely Vader and Soonterfell.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see, or people just completely dropped Sloane. Because
I heard you complaining about it for months.
Yeah, I
don't mind, but Sloane is still pretty good with. I mean, a lot of the stuff that relies on actions a lot. So, if you give you, the maybe not so much Joel Springle's list, but a lot of the other lists that were up there. If Django kills something, if Dash kills something, if Kylo or Tabson kill something, those lists just don't do very well when they're double stressed. So
she's always waiting.
That might have been a good call if you're an Imperial. Just throw some nice old school 6-7 ship Sloane Swarm.
Thing with Sloane is one. I mean, obviously, normal contemporary thought would say, "Hey, this is good against large ships. They don't want to be locked down. A lot of small ships can take advantage of it." Dash has Outrider though, and that could mitigate the stress much easier than what most people are used to. Having to dial in those blues or do a red or not a red, but a white maneuver and leave without mods for even more turns. But as someone who was looking at what is viable around to consider when Dash has been heavily predominant, Sloan was a consideration, but then Outrider has good ways to mitigate that for sure. But I guess going back to what I was asking for in the ace side of things, I think we'll have to see if random player order and what that'll do in terms of, can you run triple aces the way you used to an Imperial? Do you need a couple of blockers to kind of make sure they clear the way or screen for your aces a little bit? Do you need a 4 or 5 ship list? You know, it's a different time. Obviously, this is the first iteration of random player order utilized, and it's going to get even crazier with Road.
Well, so somebody was asking, what was the best Empire list? The best performing Empire player was Sammy, a.k.a. Netter Mizuno, if you know him by that name. And, oops, clicked the wrong button there. But he brought Darth Vader. I'll bring that back up in a second. He brought Darth Vader and the Defender and 2 Inquisitors. Those are the TIE V1s with Foresight. With Foresight. So that was the best one. So I mean, that kind of does what you were saying, Stanny. You got the Foresights kind of creating the screen for Darth Vader on 2 defensive ships, but wasn't able to pull through into the cut. All right, we'll keep it going. Keep it going. I think
so that was the Rebels who did get 8 into the top 32. But we're down to, as a note, there was only 1 light side, and was it the top 8 or top 16? I think 7 made it into the top 16, and only 1 made it into the top 8, and that was that Dash 2A from Tim. So a lot of Rebels made it into the cut, but not as far as you would think. So breaking it down further. We have it's kind of similar spread here between Resistance having 34, the Separatists at 29, and 30 for the Republic. So as it kind of just trickles down ever so slightly. But the big point here that I want to point out is that 6 of the 29 Separatists had made the cut. Is that better than 20%, if my math is right? That's 1/5 of all Separatists made it into the top 32.
Just above 20%, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that this is something honestly unique to Separatist. The people who are diehard Separatists, willing to fly them in every tournament, regardless of if they're hot or not, right? Those people who are dedicated Separatist players seem to always do well with them, and this is beyond like the Django Zam meta, right? Where we would always see like 4 or 5, maybe more Djangos get into the top 32 cuts. But this time we had variations of mixed arms swarms, pure 8-ship swarms, utilizing the different networked calculations and independent calculations. So that's very interesting to me. But like I said, I think that's pretty consistent with the Separatists. I don't know what, Ryan, do you got insight on why are the Separatists better at making cuts? You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So I think one big one obviously is the recent meta that we had was extremely dominant of Zam and Django. Like that was really strong as it was. The next part is because we've seen such a dip in swarm success and play, and because a lot of people don't play swarms that often anyway, there's not a lot of people who have had experience playing against swarms and know what to do, what to attack, how to trade. Because a big difference that I think a lot of people try and do against swarms They try to avoid everything. They try and arc dodge all of it. In second edition, unless the swarm player massively screws up, they're going to find something and kill it. You just have to make sure that something is worth trading for the position or what you can trade in the droids that you can kill for your other ships in the list. So you're just going to make it difficult as possible to kill the thing the droids are trying to take down. Obviously, they're not going to commit immediately in the beginning of the game. They're not going to make it as obvious. A good swarm player will try and make sure that their options are open to attack whatever target that they can turn in on. But you just want to make it as, whether it's ace or 4 ship or even 5 ship, if you are outnumbered, you need to make it as difficult as possible to give the swarm a viable target. They will find one, though. That is a guarantee. They're going to find one, and they're going to get one, at least, even in a 3-ship list. I will point out that the Scum actually had the highest cut conversion. The 7 out of 27 gave them basically a rounding up by 1 as a 26%, which was the highest conversion.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the Scum is, I think, up there as well as a ship or a faction who's got a large list variety of what you can take, whether it's things like the salads that Nicholas Goud has been flying, or apparently just pure efficiency with I would say the disappearance of M3As. I think that was another thing that I would be interested to check on. How many M3As?
5. There were 5
like chassis or lists.
There were 5 cartel spacers total in out of 250 plus lists.
Yeah, and 3 of them were in one list with in Octacon's list. So there's a lot more to be discovered. I think the what do I say? The easy mode of just flying like cheap 4 health agility ships is just not an option for has been proven to be not a viable option for Scum or Empire right now. So they'll have to dig a little bit deeper to find those hidden gems, those Black Sun aces in these different factions to get them to really succeed.
So there we go. There's our faction breakdown for Alderaan. I do think probably the most surprising is the goose egg that the Empire posted up, because normally you see Empire doing pretty well. There is that argument like, well, Empire players are just playing First Order. You know, I saw the joke, the pointy bits. You just switch them to the First Order, right?
Right.
But even still, like there is definitely a shift happening, and we could have been a couple dice rolls away from seeing Defender Vader in the cut. We know that he got close. He was on the perimeter, but didn't quite make it in. We'll see what he does in the future. So another thing you can see on GoldSquadronPodcast.com is the full bracket. You can see that full rundown. And if you tuned in early, you got to experience the narrative that went along with our event. It's something that we're starting to do here at Gold Squadron. Is we're putting on a story essentially with the tournament. There was a whole setup, and there's going to be a follow-up to the story for the Battle of Alderaan that will include the conclusion and how the tournament actually went. So you can look for that out on our YouTube channel. If you didn't get to watch it, you didn't get to catch it, it will be put up in its in just like that clip later, probably after we get all the games out. We'll put the narrative out there. But it was super fun to do. Now, before we wrap this up, is there anything you guys want to bring up in regards of galaxies as a whole, Alderaan, anything at all? The floor is yours. Open soapbox here if you got anything.
I'll just congratulate all of the players. And the team working on it. That it really was very successful. It was PIFO, or however you pronounce his weird name. But anyways, he was helping us out in last weekend, and it was like, I don't have a lot to do. Tournament's running pretty smoothly. I'm like, yeah, we've conditioned the players, and the team is very tight on what we're trying to do to get them to be successful. And yeah, we other than like some drops, which happens because we're corralling 250 something cats, and some of them get loose. It happens. But other than that, which like I said, it'll happen. The tournament ran very smooth. Everyone was very positive. I thought that, and that wasn't just in Alderaan too. Like I thought, hopefully, everybody who has got to play in one thought it was run pretty smooth. And I'll congratulate you, DL, on that. You run a pretty good tournament. It is smooth sailing most of the time.
I try. We want to make sure the whole thing with the reason we started this, right, is COVID. And I try to, as often as possible, look for silver linings. And I know some players ask, like, hey, if in-person events come back in 22, is Galaxies done? And my answer is no. I think there's still a place for it. Is there 8 qualifiers and an invitational? Probably not. That is a lot. But so in some way, we're gonna figure it out. I'm gonna get the shipping done first, and then I'll start planning 22. I promise. Okay. I promise. But I know that there was a lot of players who don't necessarily have access to travel. There's players who maybe even in 22 might not be comfortable traveling, and just giving them an opportunity to play competitive X-Wing against players all around the world. Why not?
So I guess I'll bring up the question then. Can you give any sort of teaser as to what's next?
So at the end, yes. So at the end of yesterday, yeah, at the end of yesterday's stream, I gave I guess it was too subtle for some people. They didn't catch it. So yes, and I put up a logo for what is going to be the theme of next year's, or part of the theme for next year's Galaxies, and that was a Death Star 2 logo in it. I'll go ahead and see if I can pull it up here real quick. But there was some people who just were like, wait, what? There was definitely I said, I'm going to do a thing, and I put it up on the screen. People were like, what is it? And I was like, it's right there. So for those of you who saw it, you saw it. Death Star 2 2022. Come on, that sounds good, right? So if you didn't catch it, it was there. Let's see. Can I forgot what I didn't. Of course, I didn't name the source, so I can't bring it up quickly. So sorry, we don't get it now. But yeah, that's it's happening. It's happening. The question is how many qualifiers are actually sustainable? Because one of the issues is I have to order all these prizes before anybody signs up, and there's some major risks there, as you guys could imagine. So we will end up seeing what happens there. Marcel talking about Team Puerto Rico.
Oh, they're talking about the shirt. The 1 star with red, 1 star and red and white stripes.
Well, listen. I had originally on the back all 50 stars, and you told me to take them off. So it would have been more obvious before.
I don't mind. I like it. I wear it. But yeah, no, the reason I keep staring is because the Bears are up 27-26. They just went up a second ago. So that's why my brain was over there. Yeah, so did you say the most important thing about this weekend?
There's something funny.
Team Greedo Sparkly Pants are in the top 16 of the crate team.
I mean, I'm going to be biased and say that's not the most important thing. It's probably the 7-month long tournament series that just came to a close. It's probably more important that I worked on, blood, sweat, and tears, put so many hours of my life into. That's probably a little more important to me, but I am hyped that we got into the cut, though.
Yeah, no. So that'll be good. Is there anything happening between now and LVO? X-Wing competition wise?
There is I know that a lot of people have small things going on. Apparently there's a charity tournament maybe happening in Milwaukee in December, so that makes me go, that's not far away. Maybe. But I think LVO might be the first thing. And the second thing after that would probably be Crossroads in Indiana. And I know that the St. Louis guys are planning something in May, but they may have accidentally scheduled it on Mother's Day. And I was like, guys, it's Mother's Day. Probably don't do that. So they're probably going to move that.
That's a quick way to burn through wife points and use all your wife points in one day for the whole year.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one person who's not going to be there. This guy, because that'll be the first official Mother's Day.
Whoop whoop! Hype! No! Yeah.
When is Lima Open? That's coming up, right? Or I saw something about November 4th. I think that's their sign up, but it's not the actual tournament, right?
Yeah. I know that there's online events going on. I know Tommy's got some stuff going on with XVT. There's the Lima Open. There's lots of stuff going on, man. Will we be starting an online GSP event before Easter? Probably not. And the reason is April's like a hands-off month. My wife and my daughter's birthdays during then. I can't. That's no-go zone. That's why we started the first week of May. So that's usually when Galaxies will start. And it's 100% predicated on those birthdays, but it gives a nice break. We did do, if you guys do remember, we did have the Flight Club Championships in the early part of the year. I will tell you, the Flight Club Championships are not coming back in the same way, but I got something else planned for that, kind of, sort of. It's not the same. It might have the same name, but it won't look the same. That's all I got to say. No more spoilers. I can't give anything else away. All right, everybody. Well, I just want to say thank you so much for listening, but I also just thank you for supporting the Galactic Championships, because without the interest, without people wanting to talk about it, without people talking about it, playing in it, watching the streams, we don't have X-Wing. We don't have excitement. We don't have community. So thank you for being a part of that. And I am looking forward to see how things continue to progress in the future, because with all the changes happening, I guarantee you one thing. It's going to look a little different. It's going to feel a little different. And we all have a lot of learning to do. Much to learn. Somebody said that in the Star Wars. Somebody at one point in time. Well, thank you for hanging out, everybody. I'm going to go continue shipping stuff. I'm going to eat a quick dinner and then work on shipping. All right? So, thanks for watching. Oh, by the way, sorry. Last thing. Target locks. We have a couple left. All right? If you're interested in scooping up Galaxy's target locks, it's not many. But from my understanding, if I looked at stock numbers correctly, we have 13 Lamu target locks left. Lamu is the one with the ring around it, and 3 Tatooine target locks left, and that's for people who played in Galaxies, okay? If those don't get sold, I'll make them available to the general public. But that's what I have left. If you wanted to get your hands on those, if you want to complete your set or something like that, $10 to add that to your swag. And like I said, we have 3 Tatooine and 13 Lamu. And if we don't, if those don't get sold, they will sold for Galaxies participants. We'll open it up to everybody else. All right, that's all I got, everybody. Stay smart, stay safe, and hopefully all of your guys' emails are correct for those of you who signed up for Galaxies, because I'm going to be sending out address confirmations. And don't get wrecked because your address changed and you didn't tell me. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Gold Squadron out.